League. Goes on to say the WNBA generated enough revenue in 2025 to prompt revenue share for players for the first time in history. All 13 teams will receive a total of $8 million to disperse amongst players. WNBA made enough money in 2025. Katie Barnes was the one who broke this story. This is major.
$8 million. That's the number that just changed everything in the WNBA. For the first time in the league's 28-year history, they generated enough revenue to trigger profit sharing with players. Every single team will receive a cut to distribute among their rosters. And here's what nobody wants to say out loud, but everyone knows is true. One player made this happen. The league has been hemorrhaging money for decades. Owners have publicly complained about losses season after season. The 2020 collective bargaining agreement set revenue thresholds based on 2019 numbers, compounded by 20% year over year. They've never hit those targets. Not through the COVID pandemic, not during the so-called ratings bump in 2023, not ever, until Caitlin Clark's rookie season.
WNBA made enough money in 2025. Katie Barnes was the one who broke this story. This is major news. This is Katie Barnes here, and I'm telling you right now, I know some of y'all is wondering, what the hell do CC got to do with this? CC single-handedly. I don't want to hear nothing else about other players, about other superstars potentially being a factor, because when you talk about Caitlin Clark, y'all better put some respect on her damn name. Union leaders also said on Sunday that they will be divvying up $9.25.
Look at those numbers again. Jersey sales, where Clark ranks second across both the WNBA and NBA combined. Her rookie card sold for $660,000 at auction, becoming the most expensive card of any female athlete in history. Trading card revenue, video game licensing, merchandise sales. The union announced $9.25 million will be distributed from licensing revenue generated since 2020, with payments expected by June 1st. But here's the part that reveals everything. The $8 million in profit sharing comes from hitting revenue thresholds in the 2025 fiscal year, not 2024. The money Clark generated last season pushed them over the edge this year. Her impact wasn't just significant, it was the difference between the league continuing its pattern of losses and finally turning a profit. Katie Barnes broke this story 2 hours ago, and the reaction across social media has been immediate, because for 2 years, we've watched a coordinated campaign to downplay the Caitlin Clark effect. Players, commentators, league officials, all insisting it wasn't just one person, that other stars deserved equal credit, that the league was growing organically regardless.
They deserve their money. They deserve their cut.
For sure.
They've helped build this league into what it is. That's the one side. The other side is that the owners have been here too. And they're saying over a lengthy period of time, we've been losing money. We ain't trying to lose more. And that's where the lines are drawn in the sand. So what you have to ask yourself as ladies is, look at what you've built and look at all that's happening in the world of sports. Can you afford to jeopardize a season?
Yeah.
Because in the end, the owners who are not known, who are not in the public eye, who are not public faces for the league, they can sit back and say, hey, we got our money. We ain't trying to lose more. So it hurts the game and we can't make it, but we ain't trying to lose more anyway. You're ladies, you're trying to make this money and you're trying to build off the league. And my advice, and I've said this in the past, would be this. Continue to strive hard to get yours, be reasonable, understand where the lines are drawn in the sand and go from there.
Stephen A. Smith laid out the fundamental tension here perfectly. The owners have been losing money for years. They're not public faces, they don't need the spotlight, and when players started demanding higher salaries and threatening to opt out of the current CBA, the owners had a simple response: we're already in the red. How much more do you expect us to lose? That dynamic created an impossible negotiation. Players pointing to growing attendance and viewership, owners pointing to their bank statements showing continued losses. Both sides technically correct, both sides unable to find common ground. Until the 2024 season changed the entire equation. Now we have concrete proof. The league hit revenue-sharing thresholds for the first time ever. Under the 2020 CBA, players receive 50% of revenue sharing, defined as total revenue minus 30% for expenses. The math is straightforward. Maybe 13 teams are splitting $8 million. The league generated enough profit above operating costs to trigger these payments.
But a rising tide lifts all boats.
Yeah.
Whoever is the marketing, whether it's the Caitlin Clark, it's the Unesco's, or anybody else, ride those waves unapologetically, because ultimately it builds the popularity of the league and everyone will benefit in some capacity down the line. It can't always be about what you want in the immediate. You have to have a marathon's point of view as opposed to.
Here's where it gets uncomfortable for everyone who spent last season diminishing Clark's impact, because we can now draw a direct line from her arrival to financial outcomes. This isn't about speculation or projecting future growth. All this is about actual money that hit actual bank accounts, because actual revenue thresholds were actually exceeded. And the $9.25 million in licensing revenue tells an even clearer story. Jersey sales don't lie. Trading card values don't lie. Video game licensing deals don't lie. When one player's merchandise generates numbers that dwarf everyone else in the league combined, you can't pretend it's a collective effort. Remember the narrative last season? Every time someone mentioned the Caitlin Clark effect, there was immediate pushback. Angel Reese's fans insisting she deserved equal credit, analysts pointing to the entire rookie class, veterans demanding recognition for building the foundation. All of that might be emotionally satisfying, but it doesn't match what actually happened.
See it, don't you? It's in black and white, don't you? This is the money they talking about, bruh. Caitlin Clark single-handedly helped y'all ass. And guess what? Y'all better show her some love. Y'all better show her some love. I ain't lying. We need to see a whole lot of love in the air from the WNBA department. Now, this was reported 2 hours ago. Big news from Katie Barnes this morning. For the first time in league history, the WNBA generated enough money in 2025 to trigger revenue sharing, bruh. You want to know why they triggered the money? Because Caitlin Clark, bruh, I'm telling you right now, this is major, major news.
The most telling part of this entire situation is who owes Caitlin Clark an apology. And that list is long. Start with Cheryl Swoops, who spent months questioning Clark's college scoring record, suggesting she had unfair advantages, implying her success was manufactured rather than earned. Then there's the players who made it clear she wasn't welcome, the flagrant fouls that went beyond normal physicality, the comments about her fan base being toxic, the constant reminders that she didn't build the league, she just benefited from it. But the biggest apology needs to come from the league itself. Because while Clark was getting hammered on the court and criticized off it, the WNBA was quietly watching their revenue numbers climb to unprecedented levels. They saw the attendance figures, they saw the television ratings, they saw the merchandise sales, and they did nothing to protect their golden goose. Actually, that's not quite accurate. They did worse than nothing. They actively enabled the narrative that she wasn't special. Commissioner Kathy Engelbert gave interviews talking about how the entire rookie class deserved credit. League marketing materials featured multiple players instead of leaning into their obvious star. The message was clear. We don't want to admit one player changed everything.
From the league to disperse among players. Caitlin Clark single-handedly helped y'all do that, man. The revenue targets in the 2020 CBA were based on 2019 numbers and compound by 20% across subsequent years to COVID pandemic. That's before Caitlin Clark got there. But here you go right here. Under the 2020 players would receive 50% of revenue share defined in the CBA as the amount of revenue threshold minus 30% for expenses. So for the first time in league history, these young ladies is finally finna get some money, and they definitely owe it to CC. Get down in the comment section. Let me know y'all thoughts about this.
Think about what this means for the next CBA negotiation. Players now have leverage they've never had before. They can point to actual profit sharing as proof the league is viable. They can demand higher salary caps, better benefits, improved working conditions, and the owners can't hide behind losses anymore. But here's the uncomfortable question nobody wants to address. What happens when Caitlin Clark retires? Because this isn't sustainable growth built on a strong foundation. This is one player carrying an entire league on her back. The attendance numbers show it clearly. Minus Indiana Fever games drew massive crowds both home and away. Games without Clark saw the same mediocre attendance they've always had. The television ratings tell the same story. When she played, people watched. When she didn't, they turned it off. The league needed this moment. They desperately needed proof they could be profitable. But the way they got there should terrify them, because they didn't build a sustainable business model. They didn't develop multiple stars who could each carry significant fan interest. They didn't create compelling storylines beyond one player. They got lucky that a generational talent decided to stay in America instead of taking a more lucrative offer overseas.
So make sure y'all keep them bills on. I'm going to keep you up to date. And until next time, man, shake the haters off. I'm out of here, bruh. Peace out.
So here's what actually needs to happen next. The WNBA needs to make a choice. They can continue pretending this is a collective success story, keep promoting the narrative that everyone contributed equally, and hope Caitlin Clark doesn't get tired of being underappreciated. Or they can acknowledge reality, build their entire marketing strategy around their obvious superstar, and use her drawing power to elevate other players into genuine stardom. The smart play is obvious. You protect your investment, you make sure Clark feels valued, appreciated, and fairly compensated. You surround her with the kind of support system that keeps her engaged and healthy for a long career. You use her popularity to create compelling rivalries and storylines that give fans reasons to care about other players and teams. But that requires humility the league hasn't shown yet. It requires admitting they were wrong about the growth trajectory. It requires acknowledging that one player did change everything, and that's not an insult to everyone else, it's just reality. Look at what happened with the licensing revenue distribution. $9.25 million generated since 2020, with payments going out by June 1st. That money comes from jersey sales, trading cards, video games, and other merchandise. Now ask yourself, what percentage of that $9 million came from Caitlin Clark-related products? Because her jersey was the second best seller across both leagues. Her trading cards set auction records. Her video game likeness drove sales of WNBA 2K for the first time in years. If you're another player receiving a cut of that licensing money, you're cashing a check that Clark's popularity generated. And there's nothing wrong with that. The CBA entitles you to those payments. But let's not pretend everyone contributed equally to creating that revenue. The $8 million in profit sharing tells the same story. Revenue thresholds that were never hit suddenly got exceeded. Attendance that was stagnant suddenly jumped. Television ratings that were embarrassing suddenly became respectable. Sponsorship deals that were hard to find suddenly became competitive. All in the same season. One player entered the league. That's not a coincidence. That's cause and effect. And here's what makes the whole situation even more frustrating. Caitlin Clark has handled this with remarkable grace. She's consistently deflected credit to teammates. She's refused to engage with the controversy around her treatment. She's shown up, played basketball, and let her performance speak for itself. She's done everything right. Meanwhile, the league that's profiting from her presence can't bring itself to simply say thank you. They can't acknowledge what's obvious to everyone watching. They can't give her the credit she's earned because it might hurt someone else's feelings. That's not how you build a successful sports league. That's how you waste a generational opportunity. The comparison to other sports is instructive here. When Michael Jordan entered the NBA, the league immediately recognized what they had and built everything around him. When Tiger Woods started dominating golf, the PGA Tour adjusted their entire schedule and marketing strategy to maximize his impact. When Serena Williams became the face of women's tennis, the sport leaned into her stardom and used it to elevate everyone else. The WNBA has a similar opportunity right now. They have a player who can sell tickets, drive ratings, move merchandise, and attract sponsorships at a level nobody else in league history has matched. They have concrete proof, $8 million in profit sharing and $9.25 million in licensing revenue, that her impact is real and measurable. So the question becomes, are they going to learn from this moment, or are they going to waste it? Because here's what happens if they waste it. Clark plays out her rookie contract, gets tired of being underappreciated and physically targeted, and takes one of those overseas offers that pays 3 times what the WNBA can offer. She spends her prime years playing in Europe or Asia, where she's treated like the superstar she actually is. And the WNBA goes right back to losing money, struggling for attention, and begging fans to care. Or they could make the smart choice. Acknowledge what she's done for the league, protect her on the court, feature her in marketing, pay her what she's worth, build storylines around her that make fans care about her opponents, use her star power to create the rising tide that lifts all boats. That second option requires setting aside ego and accepting an uncomfortable truth. Not everyone is equally valuable to the league's success. Some players draw fans. Some players drive revenue. Some players change the entire trajectory of the sport. Caitlin Clark is that player for the WNBA right now. The $8 million profit-sharing payment proves it. The $9.25 million in licensing revenue confirms it. The attendance records, television ratings, and merchandise sales all point to the same conclusion. One player changed everything. And the league that benefits from that change needs to start acting like they understand what they have before it's too late. So let me ask you this. If you were a WNBA owner who just received your first profit-sharing check after decades of losses, would you do everything possible to keep Caitlin Clark happy? Or would you keep pretending everyone contributed equally and hope she doesn't notice the disrespect? Drop your answer in the comments, because this decision is going to define the next decade of women's basketball.